Blue Team Commander, exceptional leader, quick thinker, the best spotter and one of the best UNSC snipers to date, and known for his incredible abilities with the combat knife. This is the story of Frederic-104. Fred was born on the core world of the colony Ballast in 2511 and was kidnapped by Catherine Halsey when he was just 6 years old after being marked a possible exceptional soldier. He was trained on Reach by the AI Danger and Chief Petty Officer Mendez. Both Mendez and Halsey identified him as one of the only 4 emerging leaders from the Spartan 2 group. One of Fred's first missions was to Eridanus Secundus to abduct insurrectionist leader Colonel Robert Watts in 2525 at the insanely young age of 14. After the Battle of Kaiseti, he fought alongside the Master Chief and for one of the few times in human history, the insurrectionists, against the First Covenant forces. In 2526, Fred, John 117, Kelly 087 and the rest of Blue Team defended the planet Circinius 4, specifically Corbulo Military Science Academy, which is where Forward Unto Dawn was set. The Covenant killed pretty much most of the planet, however Kelly and Fred managed to aid John's extraction with the surviving cadets, notably Thomas Lasky, Michael Sullivan and Apel Arensky. In 2544, ONI led an operation into Covenant-controlled space that had Fred and a squad of Spartans, including John and Kelly, retrieve a stolen package from the Covenant 3rd Fleet of Particular Justice, led by Supreme Commander Luro Taralumi. During the raid, 2 Spartans were killed in action, and the surviving ones infiltrated the flagship of the fleet to capture the package, which later turned out to be Catherine Halsey. Skip forward 8 years to 2552 and Fred was part of John 117's Blue Team, who fought in the Battle of Sigma Octanus 4. Specifically, the team destroyed Covenant forces from Côte d'Azur. Or, however you pronounce that. At the beginning of the fall of Reach, Fred was designated Red 1, the leader of Red Team, and left the Pillar of Autumn when Reach was attacked. He led a team of Spartans to protect power generators for the orbital Mac stations. On his descent to the planet, his Pelican Bravo 001 was shot down by Seraphs and 4 of his Spartans were killed jumping out. After regrouping, they headed to the Orbital Defense Generator Facility A331, where they received a distress call from Vice Admiral Danforth Whitcomb. Fred divided his Spartans into teams, his being Team Alpha, consisting of himself, Kelly, and Joshua 029. They managed to destroy a main Covenant landing zone using both Banshees and Fury tactical nukes. Joshua was killed in action during the mission, and Fred became bitter, thinking he could trade the lives of 10,000 Covenant soldiers just for Joshua's. This shows that even the best Spartans can still show emotions. Fred and Kelly, the only remaining Spartans, fell back and were surrounded by Covenant. They commandeered Wraiths and blasted their way back to Team Delta, entering their base by whistling Ollie Ollie Oxenfree as an all-clear sign. After realising Dr. Halsey was still in the facility, Fred had his wounds analysed. He sustained a torn Achilles tendon, 3 cracked ribs and contusions to both his kidneys. Being the boss that he is, Fred continued to serve, going on a supply run with William 043. Fred and the Spartans received armour upgrades and a new weapon loadout, including the legendary HE Magnum and the battle rifle. Fred, Halsey and the Spartans came under heavy fire at the base and were forced to destroy it, undergoing Operation White Glove. This caused them to be trapped in an old mining cavern under the base for days, where they found a Forerunner installation containing the Forerunner crystal, able of warping space, energy, gravity, time and slip space. The crystal emitted radiation which allowed the Covenant to locate their position and send troops into the caverns. To escape, they ran to another cavern and blew the entrance, trapping themselves for 2 days whilst the Covenant tried to dig them out. Eventually, Fred, Kelly, Will and Halsey were rescued by John, Anton 044 and Admiral Whitcomb. They used the Forerunner crystal to teleport to the Ascendant Justice, a Covenant carrier part of the 2nd Fleet of Homogeneous Clarity that had been captured. This ship was actually one of the ones sent to Installation 04 after John destroyed it in Halo Combat Evolved. Fred was sent to repair a plasma conduit on the ship and managed to defeat multiple camouflage elites whilst also avoiding massive plasma bolts. Fred then journeyed back to Eridanus Secundus with John when Whitcomb and Halsey demanded repairs for Eridanus rebels who refused to provide. He also manned a station of the UNSC Gettysburg when Covenant cruisers entered the system. Fred later took part in Operation First Strike with John, Will, Linda, Grace 093 and a copy of Cortana. They boarded the Covenant Command and Control Center Unyielding Hierophant, or as Sergeant Johnson called it, Uneven Elephant. During this mission, Fred became the first human to kill a brute with his bare hand. Grace was killed in action by heavy brute shot fire, and Fred, John, Will, Kelly and Linda escaped back to the Gettysburg. Then, together with Sergeant Johnson and Cortana, they finally returned to Earth. During the Battle of Earth in 20 2552, Fred, Linda and Will defended Earth for 2 weeks after an amberclad followed Regret to Installation 05. They were issued missions across the globe to places such as the Antarctic and Cuba. After their last mission in Cuba, Lord Hood sent a transmission to Fred asking him and his team to go to Onyx and aid Dr. Halsey. They hijacked a Covenant destroyer, used it to destroy another one, and narrowly escaped from Covenant and Sentinel forces firing at them. Fred met up with a long-lost friend, Kurt-051, who took command of the mission and gave Fred the rank of Lieutenant, junior grade. Shortly after, Kurt was killed in action and the command of the mission was passed back down to Fred. Fred, Kelly and Linda joined with the Spartan 3 members of Blue Team, Ash, Olivia, Mark, Tom and Lucy. They then became trapped in the Forerunner shield world, Onyx's core. For almost 5 days, Halsey, Chief, Petty Officer Mendez and Blue Team reconned the shield world. Lucy was separated on the first day, so Fred had to keep a close eye on the arguments between Mendez and Halsey. She eventually returned after finding a Huragot crew, or as they're commonly known, engineers, who maintained a Forerunner shipyard. She convinced one of the engineers, who was known as Prone to Drift, to set up a communication line to the Hive, also known as Bravo 6, a UNSC base located in Sydney. They spoke to Admiral Parangoski, who told them the Human Covenant War had ended, and that they'd been AWOL for over 3 months. They were then retrieved by the ONI Special Task Group Kilo 5 in 2553 and were transported back to Earth, aside from Halsey, who was imprisoned on the UNSC Ivanov Research Station. In 2557, Fred, Kelly, Linda and John finally reunited to investigate the disappearance of a science team and Spartan Team Black on Installation 03. They found all of them dead on the ring, along with the original site of the Composer and the Composer's Abyss that stores all entities digitized by the Composer. This is pretty much Fred's story all the way up until Halo 5 Guardians, and I know I am definitely excited to finally see him in a game, especially fighting alongside the Chief and the rest of Blue Team. I'll be covering the other 2 members of Blue Team present in Halo 5 Guardians, Kelly and Linda, in future videos coming soon, along with the Spartans in Locke's team, so be sure to subscribe if you enjoyed this and want to see more. Be sure to also like the video if you enjoyed it and found it informative. This took me a while to edit, but if it helped you guys understand just how cool Fred really is, then I've done my job properly. Tell me in the comments below what you think of Fred, and if there's anyone specific you want me to make a video on. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.